Hello and welcome to this game review. So firstly, this is a blitz game, which as you know is not really worth analyzing too much, as there's no real thought process that goes into these games, so there's no real thought process to analyze. But of course you can look at the chess moves and try to figure out something new. So it started as the Sveshnikov, so this is all quite standard. White has the clear target on d5. The pawn on d6 is not really much of a weakness, but white is more so trying to fight for this square. After b5, knight d5, bishop e7, white exchanges one of the pieces that can defend d5. So in this position, black needs to fight a little bit more dynamically, because if white gets all of these moves in the game and starts playing a4 at some point, black will be significantly worse, because he has this square on d5 and no real compensation. He does have the bishop pair, but the bishops at the moment aren't really doing that much. So rook b8 is one of the ways to play here. This kind of stops a4, because now black would take, opening up some lines for his pieces. Okay, bishop e2, bishop g5, castles a5. Yeah, a5 is also one of the ways to play, so one of the plans for black is to play b4. The other plan is to play f5, either with g6 to recapture with a pawn, or without it. So a5 is fine, b4 by white. So white doesn't want black to play b4, so they play it themselves. But this creates some new weaknesses, and this starts pawn exchanges, which is generally useful for the side that has the bishop pair. So now AB. So not sure if it was very necessary to take here, because opening up the a file is not necessarily very useful. It also allows this knight to join the game, exchanging more pieces that can defend the d5 square, which is generally not in black's favor. Black should play something else, maybe knight e7, trying to exchange the knight. And the ultimate goal would be for black to make white recapture with something on d5 with a pawn. So for example here, now this knight is a little bit misplaced and cannot get to d5, which means black's problems are not that big. So AB, knight takes, black exchanges, and now white has this clear majority on the queen side. If he ever plays a4, he will have a passed pawn on the b file, while black's d6 pawn is non-existent. So again, at this point, black's position is not very good, because he has not played anything on the king side. And here, for example, at some point we should probably play g6, f5, and try to get counterplay. So this is what happens, f5. But maybe black would like to recapture with a pawn on f5. This would be kind of the maximalist approach, opening up the g file for the rook eventually, and keeping control of some light squares. So g6 would be quite standard. a4, for example, black would have to take. We can play queen d7 or just f5 at some point. And I'm not really much of a fan of black's position. One of the ideas is also to remaneuver the bishop to this diagonal, as that's the best diagonal that there is. And in this opposite colored bishop position, which black can always get, white is slightly better because of the pressure here and the better pawn on b4 compared to d6, but it should be manageable. But okay, f5, bishop f3, this is quite a standard device in such positions. And here black takes, this just improves the opponent's bishop. Instead, we should try to find ways to improve the position, maybe queen d7 to try to capture and play bishop f5, maybe g6 to always have the option of recapturing with the pawn, and it's not clear how white is going to make progress. After this, white's move is clear. Now queen e8, and now all the ideas don't matter, because we're just lost on the spot because of the simple fork knight e7, and when white takes here and bishop d5, we will lose the queen. So this was quite unfortunate. Set queen d3 happens. So again, as said, this is what happens in blitz games. Tactics are what decide games. So whatever ideas we learn, they will not be useful if we blunder tactics like this. So this is the thing we have to look at the most. So queen d3 instead, queen h5, rook d1. So now black makes some useful moves. And now knight c7 is a bit too late. Black plays bishop f4, trying to give checkmate. But black had this quite simple tactic of queen c, bishop c4, skewering the queen and the rook, and winning the exchange. So again, we should be able to find this, especially if we're prompted by the attack on the bishop. But here, g3 is played, and now both bishops are attacked. Bishop h3 is played, but this gives up material. Again, bishop c4 is possible, though at this point, the bishop on g3 is not very well placed. On f4, it's forced to go back at some point, and now white has a huge compensation for the exchange because our bishop is kind of out of the game, and our rooks are also not very good. Instead, bishop h3, and now white could have just taken the material. It's not clear where the compensation lies, because of course two pieces are better than a rook. And bishop g2, and now black doesn't exchange, but this allows white to take the pawn. And from here, there's not really much counterplay. This attacks the rook. Knight f4 is a nice move, and at the end of this, white is up 2 pawns. Though here we could at least get some material back. After bishop g4, white plays bishop d5, rook d5, and wins on time. Though here bishop d3 is a bit more accurate, and the black would win some material back, though the position would not be great anyway. And though again bishop g4 doesn't really work out due to rook d5. So quite a complicated game, and again there's not that much point in analyzing it very deeply because we didn't really think on any of the moves since this is a blitz game. So as a general rule, I would suggest playing longer time controls as suggested in your training plan, and hopefully you play a bit less blitz and bullet and are able to get back on track. So good luck and see you next time.